It's the Infinite Podcast. Go tell your friends. It's the Infinite Podcast. My God, it never ends. It's the Infinite Podcast with Rob and Court the
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Project Infinite Podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom from movies, comics, TV shows, video games. We got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. And Court, we finally are getting around to talking about Captain America.
It's been a journey. It's been a journey for this movie. I mean, this is the first massive franchise release of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, pretty easily, too. I think this was one that people were... I don't know if excited is the word, more like curious.
I think it ranged anywhere from like curiosity to some animosity. I think that was kind of like the pendulum that this movie was floating on. And it's unfortunate. I mean, we talked a whole bunch about Anthony Mackie and how much we liked him and how much I think he's so correct and right for this role. And once we sort of talk about the fan reception of this movie and the critical reception of this movie, you'll kind of understand that this movie was already at an uphill battle. You know what I mean? Like this movie was already kind of at like it was already at a ramp that I was trying to, instead of being on like this straight path road to kind of, navigate. And it's unfortunate, but I still think with what given, Anthony Mackie does a great job. That's undeniable. Harrison Ford, the extenuating circumstance of William Hurt still stinks because obviously I still think William Hurt would have been incredible, but obviously adaptation happened and Harrison Ford was phenomenal. I mean, he's what a get. And, I know Feige was talking about the story of them getting Harrison Ford, and Anthony Mackie said it. It's like Feige, like he paused for a second. He's like, we got Harrison Ford. And like, it's one of those like inside looking out type of things because it's like, you're thinking, as like a fan, you're like, cool, that's Harrison Ford, that's Indiana Jones. But like as an actor, that's like getting like LeBron James on your team. You're just like, what the heck? Like, how were we able to manage to get him? So just absolutely the performances. I really want to highlight when we talk about this movie, Carl Lumbly's performance.
Oh my God, yeah.
As Isaiah Bradley was truthfully something. Like, it was truthfully something. Like, that's one of those performances that was almost too good to be in a movie like this as well, too. Obviously, there's things I want to talk about, and we want to talk about this movie on, things that were good, things that we didn't love. But at the end of the day, it's just cool that things like this exist. Like, imagine we're this far into the MCU where we're on our second Captain America, and Anthony Mackie gives it his all. Yeah,
I mean, I think we'll talk about this in depth a little bit, but I think the performances across the board were all really good, with one kind of glaring omission that we're going to have to talk about. But yeah, I think all across the board, this movie was fun. It was a good, fun time.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that more in depth. But do want to talk about a couple other things. First and foremost, unfortunately, we had some really, really horrific news over the last week, and that is that Gene Hackman, alongside his wife, were found deceased in their home. The circumstances by which are still unknown at this time. There were theories about carbon monoxide or whatever. That seems to have been not the case.
Yeah.
So there's still so much to unpack, but I mean...
Regardless of anything, it's unfortunate. That's the one thing. We just want to overstate, like, rest in peace to Gene Hackman. I mean,
a legendary...
Legendary is an understatement. I mean, the editor of The Conversation literally changed the philosophy on which movies are edited because of the structure and the not the pompous, but the give that Gene Hackman and the questions and like the pondering of how to even edit, such a prolific actor. And I mean, you run through the 70s. I mean, you talk about 70s noir and like the kick that it made into US cinema. Like, Gene Hackman is vehemently tied to that piece. I mean, like I said, through French Connection, through Conversation, like Gene Hackman from the 50s, 60s, all the way, up until, I believe he stopped acting, 2002, 2003 to the early 2000s. I mean, Gene Hackman is one of the most legendary actors, but he's also he's so strong-willed in his acting. He's so sure in his acting. And I remember, this one hurts me in a weird way. We have a family tradition where I don't know when it started, I don't know how it started, but the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, obviously nobody wants to cook that day because you're going to do all the cooking tomorrow. So we always used to get takeout food of whatever. But for whatever reason, X amount of years ago, we just decided to watch Crimson Tide. every single year. So Gene Hackman has been a part of my life for so long in my life too, and it's just absolutely incredible. You know, the grandeur that he speaks with. He's a commander. He's a commander in the way that he acts, and he's absolutely, you know, one of those voices. It's one of those faces. It's one of those performances. Wherever it is, he's versatile, but he's dialed. I mean, he was one of the absolute all-time greatest actors to ever walk the face of this planet, and it sucks that he's gone.
Yeah, 95 years old, incredible life, incredible legacy. I mean, you talk about The French Connection, you talk about Superman, where he portrayed Lex Luthor in the Christopher Reeves films. You talk about Unforgiven, obviously one of his most, you know, famous performances of the early 90s. I love Enemy of the State.
Yes,
he's incredible, and that movie was really the first kind of foray for Will Smith into like kind of like a drama type of deal. And to be able to star opposite of Gene Hackman in that movie, I mean, he's incredible in that. The Replacements, you know, sports movie got in there.
Right.
One of, you know, funny enough, The Replacements is one of his last films.
Yeah,
as you said, he stopped acting in the early 2000s, you know, just hung it up, you know, basically stress test, you know, just health-wise, just didn't want to continue acting. And, you know, again, just incredible career, incredible tragedy. And, you know, it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. But coming off the back of losing Gene Hackman, we did have the Oscars as well, which we kind of previewed a little bit last episode. And what else can you say? Honora, probably the big winner here.
Yeah, and it's funny. I watched Honora 3 hours before the Oscar because I had a feeling it was going to win. I mean, Sean Baker's somebody's career I've been following, you know, as long as I remembered really getting into movies and really loving movies. I mean, you're talking about a guy that won Sundance off of an iPhone, and now he's getting his flowers as a 4-time Oscar winner in one night. And I mean, his body of work, he's a resourceful filmmaker. He's like the truest form of the indie filmmaker himself. So huge shout out to Sean Baker. I always like to blanket statement, and if I haven't before, I'm sorry, because this is our 4th Oscars we're talking about. I believe this is our 3rd or 4th Oscars.
Third, I think, yeah.
Third, that we're talking about. I'll preface it with this. The Oscars needs to be about the celebration of film. This through line keeps getting lost year in, year out. I was rolling through Twitter, which was my mistake during the Oscars, and in one tweets, I hate this person, the next tweets, I love this person, and the next tweets, I hate this person, the next tweets, you deserve to die. It's absurd. It's absurd. And every single year, like, my favorite parts of the Oscars are when, like, the Best Picture candidates start rolling through and, like, they show, like, the little sizzle reel, and I'm like, this is the beauty and the magic of what films are. It's, like, the actors talking about performances, whether you liked it or not. Like, that's the subjective nature of the craft that you're doing. Like, I love movies. I will always love movies. Like, that's why I watch the Oscars, because it's, like, this grand celebration of, you know, it's the biggest night in movie history, and movies are, like, you know, movies dominate the modern culture. Like, it's literally like you reference things. It's like if it weren't for movies, these things wouldn't be referenced. Like, we wouldn't think about these things. Pop culture runs off of movies. So it's such a thing that's ingrained into our society as an art. It is the art is filmmaking. So filmmaking and music are the 2 arts that kind of run the world. So, I mean, I just hope. Like, it's just, there felt like there was this loss this year. Like, there was too much extracurricular and people forgot about, you know, the why. Like, it's because we love these movies. So
yeah, I mean there were a plethora of kind of storylines going into this Oscars. Sure. A lot of which seem to be kind of like, at least the headline grabbers, a lot of which seem to be like negative.
This year already had an uphill battle, and I feel like we kind of predicted that from last year, especially because last year was so prominent. I mean, last year you had Oppenheimer. Like, last year is exactly the Oscars that you want. Like, I think it was the most watched Oscars that it had been in so long. Like, they finally got viewership back up. Like, that's exactly what you wanted out of an Oscars. You want, like, what's crazy is imagine you put Conan in last year's Oscars. Oh boy, like, that would have been like an absolute treat. So, I really love, I'm just trying to pinpoint some things. I want to talk positives. Like, I'm kind of sick of talking, always having to think negatively, or I have to hate this thing to be like, no. Positives I want to think about. I mean, Mikey Madison winning best actress is incredible. You're talking about, she's got such like this, like, edge to her, and she's so unassuming with that edge, and that's that's some truthfully great acting. I mean, like I said, I watched Nora a little bit before the Oscars came on, and she's got such this like, she's so rugged, but she's also so like pronounced. Like, it's really like she's somebody that like you can follow around a room, you can one track follow her around a room, and you're interested with whatever she's doing. She's a real versatile actor, so I think she's got the absolute brightest of career. And to win, Best Actress by 25, that's like actresses would hope to win that in their lifetime, and she has one by her 25th birthday, so that's absolutely amazing. Obviously, Nora winning the Best Picture is awesome. I'm trying to think of some other ones that came about this as well too. My absolute favorite one of the night, by the longest shot, was Kieran Culkin winning for A Real Pain. That was the first Oscar movie that I watched in my Oscars trek. You're talking about such like I love thinking about like the thought process of the complexities of simplicity and the simplicity of complexity. Like, that's a true summation of his performance in A Real Pain. Like, it's so simple of like, he's just, he's this like down on his luck guy that lives in his basement, but like you never know it because he's so charismatic to everybody outside. And Jesse Eisenberg's work on that movie is absolutely incredible. But Kieran Culkin, like, it's like one of those like actor-director relationships that kind of like are not going to be thought about too much, but are so prominent. And Kieran is just, he's heartbreaking in that movie, but he's so funny. He's still like, that's truthfully, he feels like a real person. Like, that's why I love that performance so much. So made me happy. His speech made me really happy too. He's just like such like a guy you want to be around. And he's like such this guy that everybody loves in Hollywood. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's a good point too. Just like harping on the positives of this thing, especially because like, it felt like there were like these groundswells of negativity surrounding the show. Like, for at first, like the first kind of like ebb of that was like the Dune thing, where Dune, it felt like, was kind of not getting its shine. And then there was like the Emilia Perez thing.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't even want to dip into anything like that. Like, yeah. You won the awards, cool. Like, cool. You won your awards, cool. Like, you did your thing. Zoe won. And it was a weird thing. Not weird because of it being weird. It was weird in like a good way to think about it when Zoe won, because obviously I wanted. I forget who else was in that category. I believe it was Monica
Barbaro.
Yeah, for A Complete Unknown. And she really got some traction there at the end too, in the late award stages, but. I had grown up with Zoe Saldana, like, my whole life, like, in these massive franchises. Like, my first exposure to her was Star Trek, like, 2009. Mm-hmm. And, like, my favorite thing about her, regardless of what you want to say of the movie, she acts with such ferocity to any role that she has. Like, any role that she has, like, you're getting such humanity out of any role that she gets, which I really appreciate. So, like I said, the point I want to make for her, like, I don't really want to harp on Emilia Perez, but like for Zoe, if you disagree with the win, agree with the win, so what? Like, I'm just saying personally, like, I've grown up with her, so it's cool to see her finally get a best actor nom.
Yeah, totally. And then, it's just like another year in the books. This feels like it's going to be like one of those years, it felt like last year was like the perfect storm when like Oppenheimer was just this juggernaut of mainstream and film.
Right.
And I think, that's so uniquely suited to like Nolan.
Yep.
Like, that's, we talk about that all the time, but like he's kind of transcended like the inside stuff to where like his films are now events, and they're also recognized by like the Academy.
Yeah.
Whereas, so obviously next year we have the Odyssey will be out.
Well, next year's going to be 2026. So like the 2027 Oscars, what it'll be like for the year of 2026, Scorsese, Villeneuve, Jordan Peele, we're getting Scorsese, Spike Lee, like it's an absolutely monumentous year. It's going to play a lot. Like I forget what year it was. I think it was 2023. The 2023 Oscars whatever year The Fabelmans came out, whatever year that like Tarantino, or 2019, excuse me, this is before. So, all the big filmmakers, like your old, like, I think it was Spike Lee, Tarantino, because it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Spike Lee had Black Klansman. Like, that year was very much the year of like hey, don't forget that we can still do this. And it feels like 2026 is also going to be that year. The Batman's going to come out that year. Obviously, Greg Fraser lost last night to the brutalist cinematographer. So I think that's going to put a little battery in his back. Because I feel like that's the type of person Greg Fraser is. Like, he's going to really, like, attempt to... And I still think he, like, loses a bit of sleep over the Batman. Do you think that? That he's like, I made the... I don't, like, let's not mince. The Batman is the most gorgeous looking superhero movie there has ever been. I don't even think there's one that I would even put in the category with that in terms of superhero films. Like, you can't name me one that looks that good.
Yeah. I think he kind of not loses sleep, I'm sure, but I'm sure just a lot of things that he's been nominated for over the last 5-6 years that, you know, for him to have put out the body of work that he's put out and only walk away with one Academy Award so far for Dune is kind of crazy.
It's insane. I mean, Greg is the biggest validation Greg should have is I remember Roger Deakins not vehemently, but he said, like, I'm not a superhero movie type of guy. I don't think they're much, you know, they don't have, and to their point, it's like their focus isn't cinematography. That's not their focus. But he said, and I remember Greg was breaking down the Batman with Roger, and they had to split the episodes on the Roger Deakins into 2 episodes. Like, they had to split them because some of the things that Greg was doing on the Batman, like, he was, like, creating stuff. I mean, I have that lens with me right now that they use. Obviously, I have the baby version of it, but I have that lens that they use, that Soviet lens that they used. Like, Greg's innovation, and then you go to Dune, and it's his versatility. You go to Dune and you look at the Batman, those are 2 night and day ways to shoot, and he shot both of those movies. So he is our new age Roger Deakins, and Roger Deakins didn't win an Oscar for a while. I don't think he won an Oscar until 2017. I could be wrong, but I don't think he won till Blade Runner 2049, and it was like, finally, like everybody talks about Leo's Oscar being a long time. Like, no, like, Roger Deakins should have won this in the 90s for Fargo, and look at him now. So
yeah. So I mean, you know, he's got a lot going on, and just like, again, just unfortunate for him that he's, you know, only walked away with 1 Oscar in the last handful of years that he's been doing this. But yeah, I mean, as far as the show goes, it was fine. I mean, I just think they just gotta figure out a way to make it a little more presentable to, like, an audience.
Again, like, there's so much negativity that surrounds the Oscars. Like, there's this aura of negativity. And, like, again, the biggest thing that I'll always say year in, year out, and I think 2023, or the 2024 Oscars, like, it solved it. It's like, don't forget about what we're doing. Like, 2023, like, it had Davine Joy Randolph won. It's like, there was heartfelt, like, some of the wins, like, you feel for. Cord Jefferson comes out, gives an incredible speech. I was talking about speeches with somebody, these Oscar speeches, and obviously Adrian Brody's speech came up because it was the second longest speech of all time. By, like, a few seconds, it would have been the longest speech. And I was thinking about, like, Matthew McConaughey's speech, and I was thinking about Cord Jefferson's speech from last year where he talked about, we don't need one $200 million movie. We need, you know, we need $201 million movies and a chance. Like, that's what Hollywood needs. So it felt like such this celebration last year of what cinema is. Like, it felt right. Like, Ryan Gosling's performing, like, the most famous song in the world. Like, they need to get back. And, like, they had a good start. They performed the song from Wicked. Like, it was such this good start. But I think one of the biggest things is the Academy members not watching 10. You can't watch 10 movies. And
that story getting out was pretty unfortunate.
Yeah. It's sad. It's just, I couldn't believe it. I was like, imagine one of your jobs is you just have to watch 10 movies.
Yeah, it was unfortunate that story got out because
so much bias behind it too.
Yeah.
Like, and some people said, I didn't nominate this for this specific, like, that's wrong. Like, that's just a wrong thing to do. Like, that's,
yeah. That was, I hope that story getting out kind of just leads to some type of overhaul or something in the way that those movies are consumed by that particular body of people. But speaking of that superhero slop that the Oscars love to hate, Captain America: Brave New World came out, and man, I mean, this movie, we should just talk about real quick, just kind of like the journey of this movie.
Yeah.
And this movie is really a symptom, and it's emblematic of kind of the speed bumps that Marvel has hit.
Right.
This movie was greenlit immediately after the conclusion of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yep. And that in and of itself is kind of like the problem is Falcon and the Winter Soldier ended in 2022.
No, 2021.
2021,
right?
Yeah. 2021, Falcon and the Winter Soldier ended, and obviously we're talking about this movie now 4 years later. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. And then we just, for the longest time, didn't know what this movie was going to be. We had nothing really attached to it. And then like all this stuff started coming out, that William Hurt was going to come back as Thunderbolt Ross, and that the leader was going to be involved.
Right. And on paper too, these were all things that are cool. Like these are all things that are like, this is interesting. Like obviously if you know like the inside baseball for the leader, like that's potentially a really good villain to have. We'll talk about that more and like what came of everything, but the lead up, everything like that, there was promise. And you know, however, one of the things that we kept saying, and it's one of the biggest points that I have to make about this movie, is one of the big things we always were saying is things kept getting added to this movie. Things kept getting transitioned. People were going in and out. I think the directors swapped, the writers swapped, like a whole bunch of things changed. Some things that were controllable, some things were uncontrollable. The COVID days, obviously, like some things were uncontrollable out of this, right? The one thing that we begged, and begged is, hey, don't forget one thing. This is an Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson, Captain America movie. Please don't forget it.
And I think
I'm 25-75.
Okay. I think this movie mostly succeeded in that.
I'm torn on that because I can see where it succeeds. Like that speech he gives to Joaquin at the end, like did that feel a little runoff from Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Sure. Like, you could have pocketed that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and just had him already be... which he was Falcon when this movie started, but, you know, I'm in on that for, like, he has his Captain America base. You know what I mean? Like, he's got his Captain America base in the movie. Like, the public knows him, but there's no... If this makes sense, the weaving of, like, what his character is not in this movie. Like, there's no weaving of, like... of heart, like it feels like he's if this makes sense, it feels like he was put into an Avengers movie where like his sole purpose is to be Captain America, not to go through the trials and tribulations of Sam Wilson and Captain America. As Steve Rogers, all those movies were the trials and tribulations of Steve Rogers as Captain America, and it all came to a head even through the Avengers movies. The only one that you take a little bit away is Age of Ultron. The other Avengers 1 specifically, and then once you get into Endgame, especially it ends it. So, you know, that's my 75 is this movie. I don't agree with this movie as a Hulk movie. I don't agree with that narrative.
No, I don't think it is either.
However, this movie, I do think it does forget sometimes that it's not only a Captain America movie, this is a Sam Wilson Captain America movie. And it's weird because Civil War, it does the absolute inverse if I want to make that point. Like, Civil War is so adamant that this is a Captain America movie.
Yeah, this movie does feel like at times that Ross is the main character, and that the leader is the antagonist, and Sam is just kind of caught in the middle of those two things, which could be an interesting kind of a spot for him to be in, but it doesn't handle it well enough to pull that off.
You made a good point of this movie should have been longer. Like,
should have been a little bit longer, I think. Yeah,
and you know, some misses you have. Sam's sister should have been in this movie. I thought about that. Like, okay. Sam's sister should have been in this movie. Sam's nephews should have been in this movie. Like, it's all those grounding pieces that build, like, it rounds the edges of a character. Their families, their stakes. Like, what's truthfully his stakes in this movie? Like,
it's almost, I mean, the stakes are similar to that he dealt with in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I mean, there is an interesting thread for him, and it's really the only thread that tethers him to the plot, in the sense that Ross wants him to make the Avengers again, but he also wants Sam to be like America's guy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you have to represent me and represent our government. And it's kind of handled with kid gloves a little bit. Like, it's kind of like a toothless plot.
Yeah.
Because Sam is just kind of like, no. And then Ross is like, well, we have a problem then.
Mm-hmm.
And then the problem's never really rectified.
Right. Because, like, they try to do this thing of, like...
Because, like, the leader stuff kind of takes over.
Right. Because they try to do the Winter Soldier thing of, like, well, now he's a fugitive, but then, like, it doesn't really play until the end of the second act. It doesn't.
And he's not really a fugitive.
No,
like, he is, but he isn't, because
he gets arrested and immediately broke. Like,
he gets,
and then immediately everything's okay.
Yeah, he gets let out
like,
because the world's about to go to war, and Ross is just like, all right, let him
cook, let him
do whatever he wants. So that's kind of like the backdrop to this movie, and then the reception of it has been, I mean, from a critical lens, it's been pretty negative.
Yeah.
From an audience perspective, it's been fine.
Yeah,
I think the majority of, aside from influencers aside, I think the vast movie-going regular people like us quite like this movie. Yeah. It's not the best movie ever. It's not, but it's far from the worst.
No, exactly.
And I think when we talked, kind of like our expectations, I think that's kind of like where we both, A, were expecting, and B, hoping this movie would end up.
You know what's funny? And I love when I can sense that there's a director there. Like, but obviously, I'll say this, it's tough to operate in that space. It's tough because at the end of the day, what you're thinking about is, you do need to make this big. And like, I'll give everyone the benefit of the doubt on this point of like, Chloe Zhao's always the one I'm going to go to on this. I mean, she was fresh off of an Oscar and she makes a Marvel movie. So in my head, I think they're going to absolutely let her cook. And like, I don't want to in defense, like, an incredibly rich man that like has everything, but like in defense of Kevin Feige, like what he had to probably think about was like, I can let her cook, or like, test audience are a thing, like shareholders are a thing. Like they're like, we need to get you back to like the 2016, 2017, 2018. Like he has that in the back of his mind. Like he doesn't really have choice in like making these super like artsy projects like it. That's like, because I remember the Eternals receptions just like, and then I'm like, this is one of the most gorgeous Marvel movies though. Like this movie looks so good. There was a lot of heart in that movie too, but like sometimes that just doesn't play for a general audience. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they just want the big action scenes and the big like sometimes they just want that. That's just the way that some people are wired, if they think about this from entertainment. So for Julius Ona, there's one shot in this movie where I was like, wait a second, like there's somebody making this movie. It's where Isaiah was in the prison and he's like sitting back and it's like that shadow shot of like the sun was beaming in on him and like it was casting a shadow of him in like that cell block. And I was just like, wait a minute. Just like, wait a second.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, we can jump right to the Isaiah Bradley stuff. It's incredible. Like
it's devastating.
The idea of him finally kind of coming out of the shadows, breaking into the spotlight. Sam kind of pulls him there. He's like, I don't want to go to the White House. Like, this sucks. Like, why are you answering to Ross? And it's a little Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like, rehash, but at the same time, it's remixed a little bit.
It's the best version of what any of the plot lines in Falcon and the Winter Soldiers that were to do this. It's the best. It's what Sam should have got in this movie. Like, if you're going to keep going from what was the past, like, I think a lot of one of the things I was scared about for Sam was, like, we're just going to do the Falcon and the Winter Soldier again when we don't have to. This movie admittedly does a good job of being like, all right, we're past that. I'm going to talk about Sam because, like, I don't know what Sam's arc is in this movie. I think that's one of the biggest things I have. Like, I don't know what change that he went on. Like, he still feels like the same guy that he was at the beginning of this movie. Like, like I said, for Steve, like, one thing they made sure of, like, each movie changes a little bit. Like, First Avenger, he physically changed too, but, like, he changed. Obviously, Winter Soldier, he changed. Age of Ultron is the throwaway because it's the team-up movie, but, like, Civil War, he changed. Infinity War, he changed. Endgame, he changed. Like, he went on a discernible arc the whole way through. Like, it's not Anthony Mackie's fault, and it's, like, this is the Hulk part in the room, where, like, that was taking so much space. But if we're talking about Isaiah, like, it's the best version of that. Like, like, he actually got a second arc to his piece. Like, he got another arc.
And then for him to, it's heartbreaking.
Oh
Like what
my
happens to him in
gosh.
that movie. Like he finally he breaks out that nice suit, and then he gets mind controlled, and he's staring down the barrel of all these police officers, and all that kept thinking in the back of my mind was like, is he gonna like suicide by cop here? Like, is that what's coming? Like, felt like it could have gone that way when he basically is like pleading with Sam, like, I can't go back to prison. Like, I can't go through this again. And then Sam, you see the bond between those two characters. Sam is like, I'm gonna get you out. Like, and Carl Lumbly puts up just a tremendous performance.
What you do for Sam at that point, and this goes to your point about this movie needed to be longer, and the longer portions of this movie should have been dealt all in character work. Every single last ounce of it should have been dealt in character work specifically for Sam. That's why I said you got to put his sister in this movie, got to put his nephews in this movie. You needed to put Elijah Bradley in this movie for multiple reasons. Like, you should have put Elijah Bradley in this movie. They cut him out of this movie. What you do with Sam is that's the part you run with, because it gets lost. Like, once you start to do the raw stuff, the leader stuff, all that Hulk, Incredible Hulk stuff, like, you started to lose, like, that Sam, because you felt it. Sam was starting on something of like, oh no, you can't, like, it's what's that mean? Which is like, don't remember, kids, if you don't think the U.S. government would, like, they would, like, Sam, they're going to tell you that they want you to be Captain America until it's time to be Captain America. Then they're going to show you what they actually want. Like, he should have ran with that. Like, that's the arc that they should have really tugged on for Sam, of like, imagine your mentor, like this man that like was you. This is you. Like, he could have and should have been Captain America. Like, I mean, Joaquin talks about it. He talked about, you know, your legendary excursion to Korea. Look what they did to him. They put him right in jail after the fact. And they did it again. Like, there should have, you know what it could have been allegorical for? Like this espionage, like late 90s, like thriller vibes that they were going for. The allegorical piece could have been Sam's fear for, like, now you're going to live the fear of taking the shield. That's what it should have been this movie. Like, I never felt that. Like, part of me is happy because it's like, me personally, I don't want to see Sam struggle like that. But like, that's the piece. Like, there's a struggle that Sam just doesn't get in this movie. Like, he doesn't get like there's no personal like struggle that he's having in this movie.
No, I mean, he reconciles with a little bit of kind of doubt when Joaquin gets hospitalized. And then, but I mean, I like that part, but I also didn't like, that's the part that felt like most Falcon and the Winter Soldier retready, is when Joaquin's sitting there and Sam's like, I don't know if I can be Captain America. And then like Bucky shows up and he's like, nah, man, you are Captain America.
Yeah, we did this already.
Like, yeah, we know.
We did this already. Yeah.
Like, you know, it happens. Like,
I think they should have spun, and this is the part about like, the other part of Sam's arc should have revolved, like that Avengers plot. Like, I remember I saw like the clip dropped early and I said, ooh, like, fine, like, here we go. Like, this is something to put on Sam's shoulder. Like, I talked about what I just talked about, like his arc about like, you know, this delineation between like, am I the government's Captain America or am I my Captain America? What it should have evolved into is, am I the government's Captain America or am I the Avengers team that freedom fights Captain America? Like, that should have been the main part of his arc. Like,
yeah.
And they pulled on it and they teased us and they were just like, he might reform the Avengers. Like, he should have been like, what his arc should have been like, okay, I am Captain America, but can I lead as Captain America? That should have been the battle that he was facing. Like, I know I can, like, and it started with Joaquin. Like, that's what they really should have pulled on. Like, I can't even lead this kid. How am I supposed to lead the Avengers? Like, that's that extra 20 minutes of film that you dive into. Yeah. Conversations with his sister, conversations with his nephews. Like, you know, and that's how that conversation with Bucky should have spun. Like, I know I can be an Avenger. I know I can, you know, be Captain America now. I just don't know if I can lead. Like, I need, like, the leader arc, not the leader character, but the leader arc for Sam. That's what they should have really, really pulled on.
Yeah. Let's talk about the leader and Ross and that whole plot. Because, like I said, at times this movie does become Ross being the main character and the leader being the antagonist, and Sam being, like, caught in the crossfire of that. But at the same time, like, Harrison Ford is really, really good in this movie.
He's so good. He's heartbreaking. as well too. Like
Yeah.
Carl Lumley and Harrison Ford harbor the best performances in this movie, and the only reason that Anthony Mackie's performance itself is really good, it's just the arc he goes on is tough to kind of get it over the hump to them. So, man, Harrison Ford is so good. He's so good.
And what I liked about this Ross portrayal and this how Ross is written in this movie is he starts out as, you know, he's trying to make amends essentially with he's trying to reconcile all of his kind of misgivings of the past. Like he's trying to rebuild the Avengers. He's trying to get Sam on board. He's trying to forge this treaty and alliance with the rest of the world because, you know, the big plot point, which everybody knew, is that Tiamat Island is rich in adamantium. They introduced adamantium in the MCU.
What's your believability behind the world just being peaceful and sharing the adamantium?
Zero.
Zero. They should have done you should have done the 90s espionage, like go full. One thing this movie operates, it's like the movie didn't like go full send. Like it's like you're hitting the gas, but then you're like, I don't want to crash. Like crash the car, man. Like if you're gonna do it. Like go full send.
And then at the same time, like I did like with Ross that the minute his plan kind of starts to unravel, he flips back into that old Ross where he's like, I knew like I couldn't trust super people, like
until you are the super person, Ross.
Until you are the super person. All right.
Yeah, let's just get it over with.
So I guess this is where we can talk about the leader and the Red Hulk arc. So Tim Blake Nelson came back. I remember when he was announced, we were like, okay, the guy from the Incredible Hulk is back. And he's been leadering for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, so basically for him, he has been the leader. He essentially was, after the Incredible Hulk, he was imprisoned
by Ross. Yep.
For
making a Hulk and destroying Harlem.
Was Ross just mad?
Yeah.
Is that how Ross? He's just like a mad guy. He's just like always like that's his whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he made a Hulk, and he got thrown in not just. I mean, he got thrown in Blacksite prison. He didn't get thrown in regular prison. Mm-hmm. So like that was the first red flag, I guess, is he got thrown in like the Blacksite prison, not like regular prison, where the Ross was like, this is a prison, but like you're my guy, like you're in prison because I want you here.
Well, the thing is that essentially. He says it. He says the Hulk, like the gamma, essentially, if it hits your bloodstream, your body, it turns you into like all of your physical attributes. Just
it does something. It's like the X gene,
right? Like it just incredibly exponentially grows.
Gamma radiation just does something,
right?
So in the leader's case, it made his brain bigger.
Yeah, it made his brain into a Hulk. So like he's
a Hulk brain.
A Hulk brain. Like he's to the point. I don't even want to comment on the appearance of the leader.
I guess it's the best they could have done.
I disagree.
You think they should have just gone full send? Big head? Big green head?
Am I mad about the mustache, weirdly enough? Is that the thing that bothered me the most, is no leader mustache? Anyway. He just
no mustache for the leader, no mustache for Ross. This was a mustacheless film.
Yeah. Sam has the only mustache in this film.
Yeah, they even took Giancarlo Esposito's mustache away.
They did. I have something you want.
He's great. We'll get to him in a second. We got to keep talking about the leader.
We'll talk about it, because I think he fits perfectly into a project that we just got greenlit a few days ago.
Yeah. So the lead. So I like Tim Blake Nelson's performance. He's very like
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that. What did you think of and we talk about this all the time when you're talking about writing a character like this. Did he ever feel like the smartest person in the room?
No, not to the point of like, I see every single timeline exponentially and every
probability.
He said, now Sam Wilson's a variable. He's the one that's messing you. Come on, man.
He was like, you had a 97% chance of turning the car around and going back to save Isaiah. Ooh.
Come on.
But like, so if you're a probabilities guy and you're like the master strategist, shouldn't you also have a plan in place for when the probability
You're able to mind control people, and you didn't have somebody that can just stay and make sure Sam doesn't get to Isaiah? Like, I feel like that was probably, like, whenever I get characters like this or I see this, like...
It's so hard,
This might have been the easiest, like, win that the leader could have had. Like, he could have taken Sam out of this equation. So, like, you couldn't have a sniper 50 miles away and just wound Sam.
Yeah, he was 10 steps ahead until he wasn't, which is always... It's always a weird thing with those characters. So basically, like the thing is, Ross was keeping the leader kind of just on the leash in the prison until so that Ross could be elected president. He was using the leader's vast mind to get him elected president.
Man, I still don't get it.
And then when Ross was president, he was going to let the leader out. And then in true Ross fashion, he gets elected president, and he's like, actually, the leader's just going to stay in prison. I don't care about this guy. So the leader launches this revenge campaign against Ross, basically getting a hold of his medicals and somehow becoming his pill supplier.
I don't... Man.
How did Ross not know where his pills were coming from? How did he not know?
Wasn't he the president of, like, you're a general to Congress, or
that's
general
the president of the government you're talking to.
President to senator to president, or senator, or general to secretary of state to president. Like, yeah. I find it so hard to believe that, like, that Ross got that much turned over on him, like that, like he was really operating that way with you, like you didn't know anything was going to happen.
Yeah, so basically the leader has been secretly injecting these pills that he was giving Ross for his heart condition with gamma radiation in hopes that one day he would turn into a Red Hulk.
Did he know he was going to be red?
I don't know. I don't think so.
A blue Hulk?
But he did somehow know that he would turn into a Hulk, despite nobody knowing how gamma radiation affects you.
I don't have a problem with that, with him knowing he's going to turn into a Hulk. How was he red? I don't know.
Did he just assume because, like, you and Banner are, like, two sides of the same coin? So he's a Hulk, you're going to inevitably turn into a Hulk?
No, I think he got to the point where the gamma radiation was so... I mean, he turned Blonsky into the Abomination.
True.
You could have probably spun the She-Hulk. You probably would have had... You know what's funny? You probably could have, like, spun the She-Hulk stuff into this movie easier than the Incredible Hulk stuff into this movie, if I really want to think about it that way. You could have spun the Intelligentsia stuff into, like, this all-knowing organization that's, like, we're gonna bring down, like, we hate Jen Walters for this reason because she's a woman, like, we hate we hate the new Captain America for this reason, we are going to bring him down, you are not the symbol of the America we know. Like, you could have probably spun that movie that way, too, had what's her name? Tatiana
Maslany, yeah.
Yeah, you probably could have had her in this movie. I mean, we could just address it. I don't know why Mark Ruffalo's not in this movie. If you were going to do this, just put him in the movie.
It's kind of mind-boggling to me that there's no Hulk anything other than a Red Hulk.
All the other Hulk, even down to Liv Tyler's in this movie, but
she shows up at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Giancarlo Esposito real quick.
Man.
So Sidewinder is in this. Sidewinder. Because he's in the Serpent Society. Except in this, they're just Serpent now. Mm-hmm. They had to MCU-ify the Serpent Society.
Ex-military.
They're just mercenaries. That were hired at behest of the leader to steal the adamantium to basically turn Japan and the U.S. against each other. We're redoing World War II, guys.
Yeah.
And Giancarlo Esposito, for his screen time and his kind of going against Sam, is really good.
He's so good. He's so ridiculously good and misused in this movie. He's so good.
I love that little fight that him and Sam have when he jumps Sam, like when Sam's not in the Captain America suit.
Captain America caught without his wings. Like, is he the best actor on planet Earth? The answer is yes. He's the coolest guy ever.
And I'm so glad they didn't kill him off, because I think that character is going to be around for a little while.
Part of me is sad that he's not a more prominent character. Like, I do love the spin you make him Professor X. That could have worked. I do love the spin where he plays some bigger character for something. I don't know who it would have been. You got options. You could have taken... I'm trying to think of some characters he could have played, but you know who he would have been incredible as? He would have been a phenomenal Galactus. Ralph Ineson, I think, is about to do some legendary stuff with that voice, but Giancarlo would have been an incredible Galactus. Younger Giancarlo would have been an incredible Silver Surfer, too.
Yeah.
But I think this is just, obviously he was put into this movie. Seth Rollins was supposed to be Sidewinder, and they were like, I think also, here's what I think happened. I think this movie needed some pushes. So I think the original plan was have Seth Rollins be Sidewinder, and the Serpent Society's like just gets the crap beat out of them, and that's it.
Yeah.
I think they got Giancarlo, and they were like, we'll pump him into the first project we can get. The schedule's lined up, so they pulled the trigger too early. You can save this, though, because a Punisher project was greenlit a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
John Bernthal and Giancarlo Esposito yapping back and forth at each other for an hour and fighting each other would be the craziest thing.
I think he could be great for that.
Moon Knight would be the other option I would take.
I was going to say he could be a great foil for the Young Avengers.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun. The Serpent Society, like a little bit more powered version of the Serpent Society would be
Giancarlo Esposito beefing with children, I think would be great.
Yeah. Like, what's the problem? Like, what's the issue? Obviously, you'd have to beef them up a little bit. Like,
sure.
Make them, because, like, I think Kate alone can probably handle them, so maybe you guys got to figure something out. Because you got actually, like, a reality warper. You got a guy with super speed.
All right, well, maybe the twins are on vacation.
No, they're there. It's the young Avengers. They're there.
They're on vacation for this mission.
And who can, like I said, I think Moon Knight Season 2 can utilize him. If you're going to do that, like, Oscar Isaac and him against each other would be good. I was thinking of what if he gets, like, one of the avatars, like, he turns into one of the avatars. Yeah. So it's basically Moon Knight versus whatever avatar takes him. I just think that Punisher special screams get Giancarlo Esposito against him in there.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that's even going to... They get in the same place. But.
I was just so thrilled that he didn't die. I was just like, great, good. He's going to... I love the little scene when he goes to see Sidewinder again, and he's like, help me out. And he's like, I want full immunity. Full immunity, no questions asked. He's like, no. He's like, huh? He's like, all right, fine. What else happens in this movie?
We could talk about the...
Should we talk about the political subplot?
Okay, sure.
The adamantium stuff. It doesn't go anywhere.
No, because, like, the Japanese president just won't move. Like, he just won't move on his stance.
And it doesn't, like, build to anything that, like, I thought...
Well, that's the political thriller half of the movie that this movie was trying to sell on, like, this 90s, like, this enemy of the state-esque, like, political thriller they were trying to put together.
I just thought it was going to build to something.
Yeah, like...
And it really didn't.
What if he turned into Silver Samurai, the president of Japan? And he's just standing on top of the roof, and the power goes out again, he's like,
Like, we culminate in this, like, Japan is going to take the adamantium, and Ross is like, not on my watch. God damn it.
Mm-hmm. That was a great Ross impression. That was a great Harrison Ford impression.
Thanks.
Harrison, is that you?
And it just sets up for this set piece in the ocean, which, I mean, Sam surfs on a missile.
He did surf on a missile.
Like, there's some cool... Look, I love Captain America. I love Steve Rogers. He's not...
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about how Sam might be the most capable Captain America we've ever seen? He is an issue.
Steve Rogers... Captain America is not built for that particular mission.
Yeah.
He's just not. He can't fly.
The iconography and symbolism of Sam having the wings and,
I guess he could jump from boat to boat.
No, he can't. He doesn't have ups like that.
That's about all he could do. Like, Sam was flying. There were missiles.
He was taking out jets. It's like
jet planes, yeah.
I'm sorry, Steve. You can't do that.
And then he fought a Red Hulk afterwards.
He did fight the Red Hulk. Should he have been murdered in the first 3 seconds of that fight?
I mean, he got dunked through the White House.
He did. That was crazy. He, like, bear hugged him through, like, the East Wing. That was nuts.
That probably should have put him down.
Yeah. That was no good, to be honest with you.
Vibranium suit?
Yo.
The vibranium suit, question mark?
Yo.
What can it do? So, I mean, yeah, the adamantium political U.S. versus Japan stuff is just a lot of window dressing for the Red Hulk. Because he's about to do it. He's about to Red Hulk out. And he's got the leader in his brain going, turn into a Red Hulk, turn into a Red Hulk, turn into a Red Hulk. And he's about to, and then Sam saves the day, and he's like, I don't have to turn into a Red Hulk. And then the leader gets arrested, and then Ross is about to give a big speech at the Rose Garden. And then the leader's like, what if I leaked out every horrible thing you did to me while I was in prison? And that's it. And Ross turns into a Red Hulk.
That scene was crazy because obviously it was a reshoot scene, but that scene was crazy when the leader got captured. That was nuts. I said, Sam, should you not be with the president of the United States right now? Like, why are you with... And also, why didn't you just apprehend the leader right then and there? You fought the Sidewinder, but the leader was an issue.
Yeah, so Ross turns into a Red Hulk. Everyone's mortified. Who could have seen this coming?
Everyone.
That the arch nemesis of the Hulk was also a Hulk. It's a good looking Red Hulk.
Oh yeah, he looks really good. He looks good as the Red Hulk.
I think he looks pretty good. And then we get the Red Hulk, and I don't know why I was convinced that the Red Hulk Captain America fight wasn't going to be the final third act fight. Maybe it was just because it was too obvious. But then it was. Like it was just that.
On paper, it's still insane.
It's still insane. Sam is just getting thrown around. He stabs the Red Hulk. Let's tell you what though, Sam, he does do his best. He does his best fighting a Red Hulk. He uses the vibranium. The Red Hulk just rips one of the vibranium wings off.
How strong are you, bud?
He's real strong. He's a Hulk.
Yeah, he is a Hulk.
He's Hulk strong.
Mark Ruffalo isn't cooking like that.
Imagine if Sam had a Captain America version of the Hulkbuster armor.
Yo, that would have been awesome. With Wakandan tech?
Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
So you think he's dead. Sam's dead to rights, and Sam, this is the Captain America in him. He doesn't stay down. He doesn't give up, and then he just. How did you feel about Sam beating the Red Hulk with the power of friendship?
No, we're past that. This is the what is this? The 15th year of the MCU, or the 17th year the MCU's been around. Jeez, the MCU's been here for 17 years. Sheesh. No, cut it out. No.
Remember who you are, Simba.
No, I won't. My daughter hates me. My wife's dead.
Remember the cherry blossoms that you used to walk your daughter down.
I thought Betty was going to show up and do it to him.
Box him?
Yo, that would have been crazy.
Pack him up. Betty turns into a Hulk.
I just feel like if you do the Avengers thing in this movie, like, I would have rather a team try to beat him and it be plausible.
So Red Hulk, Sam is like, remember the good times with your daughter? And
he was
Ross
therapizing.
is like,
that's one of the things they kind of sneak in through this movie for Sam, which I appreciated. They didn't forget about
time and place, though.
No, actually, it was the perfect time and place because he subdued the Red Hulk.
And then Ross is like,
her.
Oh man, I am a dad at the end of the day. And he turns back into Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, a lot of shirtless Harrison Ford in this movie, which I wasn't prepared for.
Nobody ever is.
And then they throw him in the raft. You got to go to the raft. You're not the president anymore. Sorry. Who's the vice president?
Who's the funniest character succession planning to get Bucky to be the president at some point in this universe?
Oh yeah, Bucky's running for Congress.
Which he's going to get by the Thunderbolts.
Who's voting for him? He canonically killed JFK.
We've had worse.
That's true. He was the Winter Soldier at one point.
But he's on a redemption arc.
All right, everyone. America does love a good redemption story. This is true.
Yeah, he's all right, man.
All right. One bit of this movie I think we can both agree on does not work whatsoever is the Ruth character.
I don't even really want to even focus on her too much.
She takes up a lot of... She's not even in the movie that much, but
the original cut of this movie, she was probably Black Widow and Captain America Winter Soldier.
The version movie. This is why I don't mind reshoots, because that version of that movie where she's in this more than she's in it now is horrifying. I'm sure the actress is a fine woman. She's just not very good in this. And just not likable. No, the character is just not likable. Like, give all her stuff to his chief of staff.
I found it absolutely absurd why you couldn't just make her the old ex-Black Widow. Like, you couldn't have just made her...
She was fun. I liked her.
Black Widow. What I would have personally done is make her and Sam date at some point in their lives.
Yeah.
Give them a little bit more of an emotional stake. And these are the pieces that Sam's missing. Like, Sam doesn't have a love interest. Sam doesn't have, like, a family behind him. Like, he's just got, like, a guy in the chair.
Apparently in the comics, that character, Layla Taylor, does have a romantic relationship with Sam Wilson.
That's why I said it. Like, they should have dated. Like, remember when we were both in the military at some point? Where did you go? Oh, I was a Black Widow for a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Elena Belova freed us.
Yeah. She's just not good. She's not good. the movie comes to a screeching halt anytime that character shows up, and again, she's just not likable. And maybe she's not supposed to be, but even when she becomes quote unquote likable at the end, when she's like, actually, Sam Wilson, you might be alright, I still don't like her. I don't know, something about that character and it has nothing to do with that stuff. She was very distracting.
I agree.
Like to an annoying degree when she was like, Isaiah Bradley is this, he's the worst. And I'm like, you have all this evidence that shows that he's actually not the worst and he was mind controlled. And she's like, well, really, mind control? And I'm like, lady, do you know what universe you're in?
Half the population got snapped away by a large purple alien, but mind control is the thing that blows your mind. Cut it out. There was aliens pouring out of the sky 15 years ago, but that's the thing that blows your mind. Mind control. A woman was floating objects with her mind, but mind control is the thing that bothers you. And you were mind controlled. Wait a minute. You were a Black Widow. You were mind controlled.
And she works with Ross.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, get her out.
Yo, that actually just got me actually mad. You were mind controlled. You were one of the Black Widows. What are you talking about? Mind control doesn't exist. This is absurd. You know what? I actually hate that character now. Now I'm actually like real life mad right now. I wasn't even thinking that way. But you're talking about mind control being bad? You were mind controlled. You were a Black Widow. But this is the craziest thing that's happened in this universe. A talking raccoon saved the universe. And there's a quantum realm, but mind control is the craziest thing you've ever seen. Stop. Cut it out. Mind control. There's no way that the mind control. What are you talking about? If you would have said this in 2011 MCU, sure. A god came down from the sky and spewed lightning out of a hammer, but mind control is the craziest thing you've ever seen. Cut it out, Ruth Bat-Sarah.
that was an all-timer. I gotta say. I don't even know how to follow that up. That was great.
That got me really worked. And I was like, I didn't even want to engage with that character, but she has a problem with mind control. That man can lift a truck with his bare hands, but mind control is just out. This guy turned into the Red Hulk in front of your face, but mind control is the craziest thing that's ever happened. There was a floating city in the sky that you worked on a base, but nobody knows how to mind control anybody.
All right.
You talk to ants, but mind control isn't it?
That was, man.
I'm trying to think of every MCU moment's just bothering me now because that's
I mean, the whole adamantium thing. There's a celestial floating in the ocean.
But mind control is the thing that's bothering you. How did they know what to call it a celestial?
Yeah.
I don't care.
That's a good point. And Irisham didn't show up.
Yeah, he didn't go to avenge. No, maybe he's plotting to avenge his son.
We can only hope. Yeah, so Ross gets thrown in the raft. The raft is humongous, and there's like 4 people in there.
No, don't forget about all the Netflix characters that are also in there.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
Yo, they should have put Giancarlo Esposito in there, and then they should have had him have the cell next to Diamondback. I was thinking maybe me and you can team up.
Diamondback is in there. Trish Walker is in there.
What an interesting journey she went on.
Ross is in there. The leader is in there. That's it. That's where all the those are all the super criminals.
That is all the super criminals.
Maybe Kang's in there.
No, he's not. Dr. Doom killed Kang.
Not yet. And then so Sam goes to visit Ross, and he's like, "You're not gonna turn into a Red Hulk, are you?" And he's like, "Not. I'm all out of Red Hulk juice. Sorry." And he's like, "Well, see you later."
By the way, here's your daughter.
And yeah, and Ross is like, "Man, a man's got to own up to his mistakes." He's like, "What does Sam say?" He's like, "You could have fought this. How? you didn't have to turn yourself in. What do you mean? The government was not just going to let a Red Hulk be president."
That's true.
So Ross is like, "Nah, I had to step down.
A Red Hulk?
I had to step down. I gotta do my time, Sam. I'm Harrison Ford. I might be back in one of these in the future. Who knows?" And then Sam's like, "Well, I gotta run, but there's someone else that maybe wants to have a conversation with you. And then Liv Tyler shows up for 20 seconds, and she just goes, "Hey, Dad," and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna have to postpone that walk," and she's like, "That's fine, we can just talk."
Why didn't they do the funeral? Because I'm assuming they were going to tell the world that Ross died. And, like...
Yeah.
You think it's because they didn't have a vice president, like, in the wings?
Maybe. Or they just... I don't know. Maybe they just... I don't know. Maybe they just...
Just felt like that was kind of cool. Like, not cooler, but, like, it was just made a little bit more sense. Like, to do the funeral and tell the world that Ross died and, like...
I guess because of the way it ended that it was so public. Like, him and Sam fighting, and then him actually turning back into Ross, that, like, everyone knew that he was alive. So, like, maybe in a different version of that movie, like, they have a little more intimate of a fight, where it's kind of just the two of them.
They do the Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe fight from Spider-Man 1.
And then the movie ends.
Well, they have that, Joaquin and him have that heart-to-heart.
Yeah, when he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry you got blown out of the sky," and Joaquin's like, "It happens."
Yeah, and he's just
I'll do better next time.
Yeah, and he said, "I need a seat at the table." I mean, that was heartfelt. Like, he's like, you know, they talked about messing up. Like, I am gonna mess up sometimes. Like,
Congratulations, kid, you're an Avenger.
Right? Like, it's just like, hey,
you're the first Avenger. Good
you need
job.
to be ready, and B, it's like, hey, you inspired a kid. He's just like, I don't know who. Imagine.
I did like that scene where
imagine if they did my leadership arc this whole movie. That would have been the perfect head to do this. To be like, hey, like, I have to fight to even get a seat at this table.
And I like the fact that it came back around to Joaquin being like, "No, like, you're the reason I wanted to be a superhero. Mm-hmm. You, Sam Wilson, not Captain America. Like, Sam Wilson, the person."
Sam is Captain America.
No, I know. But I mean, like...
Oh, no, you're one of the...
Nope.
Captain America denier.
Before he was Captain America, he was like, "I saw the Falcon. Like, you were the shit, man. Mm-hmm. Like, you could fly."
Yeah. And you didn't need a metal suit to do that, Rhodey.
You could fly. Like, you're awesome. And then you became Captain America. Like, that's the type of arc I want to go on. Mm-hmm. Like, that's cool. And Sam's like, "That is cool."
Mm-hmm. He said, "Be ready." He said, "We are going to do this Avengers thing."
First, I gotta go find me some Avengers.
Yeah.
That's what he should have said at the end. I gotta go find me some damn Avengers. And then we get this really, really puzzling post-credit scene.
They just did the Psycho Pirate thing.
But apparently not, according to the director of the movie. Because that post-credit scene was supposed to allude to the Illuminati.
Well, I thought the Illuminati were supposed to be in the movie.
Well, yeah, but he said that the post-credit scene was was supposed to be alluding to the Illuminati, but I didn't...
Would it have been?
I don't get that vibe at all.
No, well, that finale was definitely reshot, or the post-credit scene was definitely reshot.
Because I get the vibe that the post-credit scene was about Doctor Doom, or like at least the multiverse.
Well, yeah, well, it's about like saying like, hey, like all the multiverse is going to collapse soon. Like,
but apparently, the post-credit scene was an allusion to the Illuminati, which I don't get. I don't get how that was supposed to allude to the Illuminati at all.
Who's even on the... Well, I'm assuming the Illuminati in the MCU was those characters from the end of Shang-Chi. So Captain Marvel, Bruce Banner...
What kind of Illuminati is that?
The MCU's Illuminati right now.
Unless it's like a super, super secret group that we haven't seen yet.
I mean, it would have been it's characters we've seen. I would be curious to, like, you know who would be interesting on a team like that? Bucky would be interesting on a team like that. Like,
alright, let's spitball this real quick.
Yeah, who's the MCU's Illuminati?
The Illuminati by proxy is a group of individuals representing different groups within the superhero universe.
And they make the tough
decisions.
No. The Avengers make the tough decisions. They make the immoral, like, survival of the fittest decisions.
So I think 1-to-1 comic to live action Illuminati that totally works is Namor.
You have Namor and Doctor Strange. I'll double down on yours. Namor and Doctor Strange are non-negotiables. Like, yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch is built for a team like that.
Because this Namor is a lunatic.
He is a lunatic. He would flood the entire world if he needed to.
So Namor, how many people in the Illuminati? 5?
5 to 6, all depending.
Right, so Namor, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, because I think she's also a lunatic.
I'm not. You know why I'm not going to go with Captain Marvel? because of the Marvels, I think she got soft a little bit.
She's not a lunatic anymore.
No.
Nick Fury?
No. I think even when I'm out, I'm in. No, I don't think he'd be there. I think M'Baku would be there
Instead of Shuri?
because I think M'Baku has like he has the wherewithal to know. Like, what was his first reaction when Namor showed up? Can we just murder him? Like, why is this even a conversation?
Yeah.
I will stick to the mountains if need be. Like, I'm not getting engaged unless I need to. I think M'Baku would be the Wakandan, because a Wakandan stand-in needs to be there.
Sure.
So, M'Baku, Doctor Strange, Namor. Trying to think of some of the other powers.
Mr. Fantastic. Just forecasting a little bit. But
who's Mr. Fantastic?
I think it would be Pedro Pascal.
Well, if we're talking about that movie at the present time that movie's coming out, I'm purposely not going to put him there. Mm-hmm. I think that Bruce is there. I think he's pulling some strings to be like, I'm kind of the last guard of the old Avengers that's still like has my mind cognitive enough, and I don't have family ties or anything like that. Like, I can make tough calls already. Like, I'm Tony's friend. Like, I can make these calls that he's not here for. So
White Vision?
No, he's like their enforcer. He wouldn't be there. Like I said, I think Bucky would be like your...
Yeah, Bucky probably has to be there. Mm-hmm. As like the Captain America kind of like stand-in.
I'm going to throw you an absolute curveball for one of them, and it would be, I'm just trying to pick from the corners, however you feel about the actress. Hope Van Dyne as the Wasp being there. She's the head of a Fortune 500 company. Like, I can see her being like, especially after like the radicalization of like what her father taught her, and then like, her being so attached to S.H.I.E.L.D. and then to the Pym, to the like all the Pym stuff, like how things falling into the wrong hands can go awry so easily. Like, I feel like she would be a good round out as well too, to be like, of somebody so happy-go-lucky as like Scott to transition to Hope, and she's like the business one, like things need to be done, the hard calls need to be made. That's a
good one. I would agree with that. Yeah. So I guess they could make an Illuminati. Mm-hmm. I suppose it was just a weird post-credit scene where Sam Wilson was like, "What's up, the leader?" And the leader's like, "The multiverse is a problem. Mm-hmm. We know."
You know what? I might spin your Nick Fury thing and put him back. Obviously not as like a member, but he's like the one that's like, no, like the multiverse is ending. It will be handled. He will be tackled. Like,
yeah, we know the multiverse is the thing. The leader, we know.
Yeah. We saw Crisis on Infinite Earths from the CW. We know it's
and that's it. That's Captain America: Brave New World. Like I said, I think Anthony Mackie was really, really good.
Yep.
I think if this movie's mission was to justify him as the leader of the Avengers, I think it does that, at least from a character presence standpoint. Like, he clearly shows that he's capable both as a Captain America and as a leader of people. He galvanized America again. You got to do better, the Red Hulk. We joked about that he was going to do that, and then he did.
Yeah, he actually did. That was actually how he beat the Red Hulk.
He just talked to him. Like, hey, man, don't be a Red Hulk. And Ross is like, all right.
He said, okay.
All right, I won't be a Red Hulk.
I'm just going to go to prison. Remember when I was...
I'm just going to go to prison.
Old Ross never would have let that happen.
No.
Old Ross would have murdered him.
You're going to have to kill me if you want me to go to prison.
You're tackled.
There's a phone ringing.
There is a phone ringing.
I think, all in all, this movie is not the best movie of all time. It's not the worst movie of all time. It did exactly what it needed to do. And then we just plunge on ahead to the Thunderbolts. Which I think is that movie is going to be special. I think that movie is special. Yeah. There's like actual direction and actual, like, it feels like the word I used when we were talking about the trailer is definitive. There's something definitive about this, something zany about this movie. Yeah. Definitive. These performances are probably going to be heartbreaking. Like, it feels like an actual film. Mm-hmm. So I'm very excited. Beef Creator is directing this. So yeah, I think that's going to be really cool. I think Florence Pugh is going to absolutely shine. I can't wait to see more of John Walker. I think he is singularly one of the single most interesting characters that the MCU has right now. Yep. Funny enough, because of all the Chip Zdarsky Daredevil stuff, John Walker fits perfectly into Daredevil Season 2 if they choose to go that route. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I just want to see more of that character. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what this movie brings because it much like the Fantastic Four, it just feels different from what we've gotten so far. I know a lot of people are making like the Suicide Squad like comparisons, and I don't think that's totally fair.
I don't think it's that simple to be like this hit squad of you do this or you'll die.
And they're not, in my opinion, based on how this movie's being framed with what Valentina's doing, I don't think she sees them as expendable.
No,
like in the vein of the Suicide Squad.
I think she wants like this team around the Sentry. Like I think that was her original plan. Is she wants this team to bolster the Sentry, but also to keep the Sentry in check. Like, and that's why you put assassins around him because they won't have to blink twice by the time they have to murder him if something goes awry. But then the time arises and they're like, we can't kill Bob. Like, that's Bob. Like, he's cool. It's like, that's not Bob right now, though. Like, Bob's not coming to the phone right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm really, really excited for all the Sentry stuff. That looks like the stuff they're doing with the Void is going to be really, really cool.
Looks very comic accurate, too. Like, it does
look very comic accurate.
I think the, Paul Jenkins, or what's his name? Paul Jenkins? The creator of the Sentry. He was one of the consultants on the film itself, too, which is so cool.
Yep. So that's the next Marvel offering. Comes out in May. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we only got a couple months.
Yeah, we're getting to the time of this. We said this year was going to be jam packed with stuff. So,
Daredevil literally starts
in an hour.
In an hour of the night we're recording this on Tuesday night. So Daredevil is about to come out. I want to probably circle back to Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yes, because that show deserves some talk. That show was special. That show is special. Best arc out of that show, you never would have thought it came from Tombstone, but it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of... It's my favorite stuff that Marvel Studios does is when they take origin stories and they remix them.
Mm-hmm. Also, when their animated stuff has like heart and discernment to it.
When they flex a little creativity, it can be really, really good. When they like, hey man, like we have this character, like let's kind of remix the origin story a little bit. They don't just do that with Tombstone; they do it really with Spider-Man throughout the course of that show. So I want to talk about that for sure. But next time you hear from us, it'll probably be Daredevil related stuff these first two episodes. Like I said, I don't know if we're gonna get into Last of Us territory with this Daredevil show where we're kind of just talking about it every week. We might. It's based on the vibe.
the early reviews.
Yeah, so
very, very good.
So look forward to some Daredevil heavy content over the next couple weeks. And we'll, like I said, we'll try and circle around to talking about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man because I think does a lot of cool stuff and it sets up potentially sets up Coleman Domingo for some live action stuff. I think
you make Coleman Domingo, Norman. You make the kid that was in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Harry.
Okay,
get them with Tom. That's pretty dang good. I just think that to get Coleman Domingo in any project nowadays is like get him in your like don't.
And he said he would do it.
He said he's waiting for like the right role for a superhero thing for like a Marvel thing to and I mean
and Norman Osborn.
Don't complicate it. Just make him Norman Osborn. Don't overthink it.
So yeah, that's it, man. You can follow us on Twitter at @ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram
at the Project Infinite Pod.
You can follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/the Project Infinite Podcast. YouTube channel gonna get a little more active, hopefully in the next month or so.
TikTok,
we're on TikTok. I gotta keep blasting these TikToks out, man. I keep forgetting, but I'll get around to it. Next week, probably Daredevil stuffs as we talk about these first two episodes of Daredevil Born Again. I can't believe it's here. 7-year hiatus. Show went through a lot. Didn't know what the show was going to be, and now it's just Daredevil season 4 apparently. So the best timeline. This is the best timeline for what this show could have been. This is the
best timeline.
This is the best version of what the show could have been. So really, really looking forward to talking about that. And from the
careful, man. This might be one of those weeks. Careful, man.
It is one. I mean, I'm not
Careful, man.
I have to. I don't have a choice.
You do have a choice.
Do you want to be the leader?
No, I don't want to be the leader.
The Sam Wilson of the podcast. Look, gotta do what I gotta do, man. And do you want to be the Ruth, whatever her name was on the podcast?
Mention my name and her name in the same sentence, or the actress. Don't do it. Don't you dare.
So it's the Sam Wilson of the podcast.
Fine.
We'll see you next week for Daredevil Born Again. Until then, goodbye.
Peace.